if I said to your goalkeepers, I can give you a pill that's completely legal, completely free, will help you cure all your injuries, will help you perform at the maximum each game and each training session and recover as fast as possible, every single one of them would take it. And I'd say it's sleep.
Welcome, goalkeepers, to a very special GK Talk. In today's video, Coach Adam chats with English goalkeeper Conor O'Keefe, a professional goalkeeper playing out of Sweden for Piteå FC.
My name's Conor O'Keefe. I'm a goalkeeper playing in Sweden and keeping goals as a vlog here on YouTube that documents my journey throughout football and hopefully brings you a little bit of value along the way.
Conor is a very driven player who has pushed hard to become the #1 for his team. Notwithstanding his height, which normally could be a problem. He has overcome that through training and self-drive to be the best at his craft, focusing on what he can control versus what he cannot. His play style is somewhat De Gea-like, but he sets his own tone on the pitch. He created his Keeping Goals channel on YouTube to track his progress in his career and to share his struggles and successes with you. He doesn't just focus on the high diving saves, but keeps it to the basics with communicating, distributing, and controlling the ball with your feet. If you like this interview, we ask that you give it a like and subscribe to the channel. If you haven't already, go find, like, subscribe, and follow Conor on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We'll add the descriptions below for the direct links to his page.
Mot i mitten och ni får tillbaka bollen snitten bakåt och skottet är som
And now, I hand it over to Coach Adam and Conor O'Keefe. Take it away, guys.
Yeah.
Well, we'll just start bang off with, I guess, when you first decided to become a goalkeeper, that's the biggest thing with a lot of the keepers over here. When they first start, a lot of them end up because, the coach just sticks them in the back, right? It's not necessarily because they are a goalkeeper or not. It's just more they end up in the back, and then either they become the goalkeeper or they end up back on the pitch somewhere else, doing some other position. So what got you into being a goalkeeper? Why'd you make that decision?
I can't remember if there was a single thing. I'm quite fortunate. Me and my brother are quite close in age. So my younger brother's about 18 months younger than me, and my dad was a massive football fan, his dad a massive football fan, so we were born into a football family, and kind of as long as I can remember, we were always encouraged to be playing football, messing around with the football, inside, outside, and I think my earliest memories is that I enjoyed diving around and making saves. I enjoyed jumping and trying to stop the ball, and where I grew up in the UK, it was very rainy most of the year, so I enjoyed jumping in the mud. I enjoyed getting muddy and making saves. Unfortunately, my brother was the opposite. He enjoyed shooting and trying to score. So we passed a lot of time with him just kicking the ball and me trying to save it. And that was a lot of our childhood, really. I did play outfield, of course, when I was younger as well, and I enjoyed that. But and I remember actually when I was probably at primary school, I was probably about 10, 11, and I wanted to play in goal for my school team, and my school teacher wanted me to play outfield because he thought I was better outfield than I was in goal. And I remember having a big argument with him about the fact that I wanted to play in goal, and he was saying, no, you need to play outfield. And I think there was always just something that I enjoyed about the gloves, about making saves, about diving around and just kind of being a little bit different to everybody else. There was something that kind of attracted me to that. But I think for whoever and however someone ends up in goal, hopefully there's something about the position that they kind of find interesting or different, or something that intrigues them or excites them. Because if you have that feeling, then you're willing to do all the crazy things that we have to do as a goalkeeper, because there's a lot of things which are difficult and hard as a goalkeeper. So that if there's something about the position that you love, that is always preferable to someone who's kind of just been stuck there and doesn't enjoy playing there.
Right. That's kind of what we work with our goalkeepers, how we teach them. You always have to be a little different. You have to be the crazy one because you are the one running at somebody at full speed. When you're working with your trainers and at your level, you're not really coaching you, they're training you. When you were younger, what did you find that was the most appealing about your coaches when they're teaching you how to be a goalkeeper?
So I think it probably took me, I was very late when I had a very specific technical goalkeeper coach. So I think my first goalkeeper coach that really was a proper coach that could understand the technical elements and really build that up was quite later on in my career. And as a young goalkeeper, I'm sure a lot of people have the same issue. You're in a team where maybe a parent is helping you warm up, or you have minimal goalkeeper coaching. I think nowadays social media is brilliant because you're able to access people all over the world that can help you with certain drills. You're able to research people who are more specialized like yourselves, who run groups. And a guy that I work with called Scott Healy was someone that I trained with quite a lot. We've done a couple of videos together, and he was probably my first goalkeeper coach. And his method was big groups of probably 10 to 15 goalkeepers, lots of reps, lots of encouragement, lots of talking, a very positive attitude. Probably the first time that I encountered a kind of goalkeepers union of people that were similar to me, that enjoyed doing what I did. Natural competition within that, but also encouragement, helping each other, no matter if it was a 5-6-year-old kid to an 18-year-old professional. Those groups had people of all ages and stages, and the fact that you could learn off everyone and watch everyone was something that I really liked. I think as I then got older, you can start to progress it into more technical elements where you really break the position down and you're starting to learn the key details of playing in goal, and add that together with in-game experience. That's where you start to put the whole picture together. But I think the first stage is to really encourage and shine a light on the positive aspects of goalkeeping and make people feel like they're in a safe environment where they can really love that and enjoy that before you go too complex in terms of technical advancement. That's always something that I've kind of said to younger goalkeepers or parents of younger goalkeepers that have spoken to me, because like we said earlier, that you're going to go through a lot of hard times as a goalkeeper. So the more that you can reinforce that love of the position, love of making saves, and see it as a real positive to be a goalkeeper, then that's the best thing I think for keepers that are starting out with coaching.
Nice. One thing we're working on right now, and we work our level of keepers really is with Kyle. He ends up working with our younger keepers, and that takes a special person to work with young kids to keep them focused. And we work from ages from about 8 all the way up to we've got guys that are 20, 23, but right now the group I'm working with, we're working on diving. And diving to me was always the best part. I was always excited about diving, and the one catch is getting them to be comfortable landing. What was one of the things that you did, or that maybe even one of your trainers did, that taught you how the process of landing and how to get your body stretched out properly and not to necessarily be scared about diving and landing on your body?
The surface is very important. So depending on what you train on, so a lot of my kind of youth with that goalkeeping group in particular, we were on grass, and a lot of the time it was very wet and boggy, so it was a softer landing. You could be encouraged to try and extend more because you knew the landing wasn't too hard. Compare that with keepers that may be training on very hard AstroTurf. That's different, and you do have to try and build up that confidence in a different way. One thing that I encourage for people that are struggling with diving on a weak side, for example, is bringing it back to basics by starting on your knees and not necessarily starting on your feet at full height. So if I was to say have you as my coach, for example, and I would kneel down in front, you can still have the similar type of service to either side, a low service passed along the floor, a thrown service at mid-height, or even a thrown service which is higher, and you can practice the positive angle of the dive. You can practice the landing from like side of your leg to hip to side of your body to shoulder. You can practice keeping the ball in your hands as you're landing, placing it onto the floor as you land, all those little details of diving, but instead of from full height, you're doing it from your knees. So it's not painful. It's not a big landing up in terms of the distance you've got to fall. And that's something which, to be fair, I had a shoulder injury 2-3 years back, and I had to build up my confidence diving and landing on that side. And I did that. I broke it right down from starting on my knees, getting those reps in, taking it onto your feet, and just having like a little half step into a collapse dive, to even taking it then obviously into your footwork and then your extension and your push and your spring into a full stretch dive. So you can break it down from knees to feet to full stretch and diving properly, but with the same focus on those key elements in terms of the landing, the handling, the forward angle, all those kind of things that you'd introduce.
And yeah, that's it's good that you're saying that, because we always teach our keepers that, you know, you want to get as much information from as many people as you can. Just, you know, working with one trainer is always nice, but it's better when there's 2 or 3 through your lifespan, not just like that one trainer, because you can learn so many different, even with what you train. So this is something we've also been talking about. You know, when I started training many moons ago, basically the goalkeeper was a completely different person. I mean, you didn't have the sweeper keeper, you didn't have the side volley, you didn't have any of that stuff. You basically punted the ball. You know, you had 8 seconds to hold the ball. You could only take 5 steps. I mean, there was all these rules and regulations back in the day, where now there's a lot more freedom for the keepers. And so we try to explain to them that no matter what level you start at coming up, the training still at the core is the same. You know, so for you to say these things, it's good because it's the same stuff we tell the keepers. Now, one of the things I've been doing with my keepers, because we do play on both surfaces, we do have turf and we also have grass. When we're on turf, we use a mattress, a small blow-up mattress, to get them used to that physical movement. You know, you're constantly diving, and then eventually you kind of pull the training wheels away. So they feel that they get used to the movement already. The technical gets built, so by the time they hit the ground, it's not a surprise anymore, other than, you know, it's a little bit harder than it was with that mattress. So a couple other things we've been working on, which I will say we've been using your plyometric program. Because again, that's another dynamic to training that just didn't used to exist.
Yeah, of course.
And that is huge.
How have you found it? Have you enjoyed it? Has it been
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think when it comes to teaching how to dive, in the way you have to turn your body, even the fact that, you know, like we used one of yours, you know, we used the program where we started with the jump ups, you know, springing up, building that energy, even to the point of, you know, you're on one knee and then you got to turn and push off. And that's where you catch a lot of keepers who think they're good as far as their technique in diving. And then when they're on a knee and they got to push off that, they got to do their power step, all of a sudden they realize the technique is now missing, because the strength in the knee, the strength in the upper leg is just not there. And so instead of diving, they're anchored to the ground. So that has been great, absolutely phenomenal. So definitely.
I'm really glad to hear the feedback. Thank you.
Yeah, that, and also the distribution. That's another big thing. Like, I just got done watching Watford, and you know, Ben Foster did an amazing side volley, probably a good 80 yards, but it maybe was 10 feet off the ground, and it just rolled, hit the ground, rolled right to the striker. I mean, they didn't get the goal, but the distribution started right there, you know, and that's key with any goalkeeper. And I think no matter what age, I feel like you can start teaching that. So your distribution program, which we purchased, has been phenomenal. So we've just been slowly working that in. Now, one of the questions that did come up, and it's from one of our older goalkeepers who is about to go into college. And she asked, what was the process that you did for advocating for yourself through college to go to pro ball, and how to get noticed?
It's hard. I mean, it was actually when I was at university or college when I started the YouTube channel, and one element of that was to try and get myself noticed by other people, to try and self-advertise the skills and the abilities that I had. A big part of it was also to help other people in a similar position to me, or people that were starting goalkeeping, and to share my journey and share my learnings. But one part of it was to try and create a window where people could see what I was doing, because I knew that there was thousands of goalkeepers in different countries around the world that were in a similar point in their career to me. So how could I differentiate myself? There's multiple ways, obviously. I mean, the first and most important thing is your performance level. That's always going to be the highest thing, because I could make 1,000 videos making myself look the best that I could ever be, and I can get trial offers and whatever, but as soon as a coach sees me play, if my performance level isn't high enough, I'm not going to get the opportunity to move on to the next stage that I want to be at. So the first stage and the main focus always has to be the level of your performance. Obviously, there's a lot that goes into that: how you live, how you train, how you work, how you research, all that kind of lifestyle aspect to it. But the performance level has to be at the level that you want to go into. After that, it's about creating the opportunity, and there's different ways that you can do that. You can utilize the network that you already have of coaches that you work with, of teammates that you have, of ex-teammates, ex-coaches. You may get lucky with scouts coming to watch, or you may perform in a big game that gives you the window. But people often have a bigger network existing than they think, and you have to not be scared to pick up a phone or send an email or get in touch with these people and say, listen, I'm at this stage, I'm trying to find my next step. Is there anyone that you know that might be interested in looking for a goalkeeper, or somewhere I can come in and train or have a trial? And once you've exhausted that network that you already have, you may need to expand that network, and you can do that through LinkedIn, social media, email addresses. I'm sure people who are familiar with the vlogs that I've done, when I first went to Spain, that was what I did. I didn't know anyone, I didn't speak Spanish, but I created a spreadsheet of football clubs within the area that I was going to be moving to. And I found email addresses for coaches, phone numbers, addresses. I wrote letters. I sent LinkedIn requests. I followed people on Twitter. I sent messages, and I put in the work, the same work that you do when you're trying to get a job. Is hard. You know, there's a lot of people going for it. So there's ways that you can be creative with it, but I'd say maximize your own network that you already have, because that's always the most valuable. When people know who you are and they know the value that you have, and they can speak on your behalf, that's always going to carry more than a completely cold email. But at the same time, you may need to do 100 cold calling stuff to get one opportunity to go and train somewhere. So it's difficult, and I would be lying if I said it wasn't hard work, but I think that's often what separates the people that really want it and break through that ceiling to those that say I could have been a pro. So it's tough, but I think it's definitely doable. That's something that I've found.
You know, I will say this particular goalkeeper, she trains a lot. Now, one thing I noticed, early on in your early videos, because I think I started following you early on, not at the very beginning, but early on when you started doing your vlogs. And I will say that she trains an absolute ton. She plays for 2 clubs plus high school right now. So she trains a lot. Do you find that you can do too much as a goalkeeper, or even as a player? Like, I can go just a little bit longer only to find out that you have pushed yourself too hard.
Yeah, 100%. And it's something I've struggled with. It's a nice problem to have, I'm sure, as a coach, for example, but it's something that you learn with experience. I remember I saw something with Gary Neville talking about Cristiano Ronaldo, and everyone talks about how Cristiano Ronaldo is a consummate professional in 2 hours before, gym work, whatever, made himself the best in the world. And Gary Neville was talking about that one day they were doing sprints or something before a game, and Ronaldo was middle of the pack. And he's like, Ronaldo's never in the middle of the pack. Why is he middle of the pack? And Gary Neville said, why are you not smashing it? You should win every single race. He was like, a plant can have too much water. And it's true. If you try and smash it too much, you might not be there at the moment that you need to give it. Now, that's a very fine balance, because some people can take that the other way and say, oh, I'm resting. And then they're never able to switch it on. but you have to know your body, you have to know your schedule, you have to know that rest and recovery is as important as the training and the pushing, because in order to maximize your training and maximize your performance, you need to have a full tank. You can't run on empty. So I think it's a skill that you learn, and it's brilliant when people have the characteristic of wanting to do as much as possible and pushing all the time. But if there's someone or somehow that they can harness that and still maintain the importance of rest, recovery, sleep, eating well, drinking well, stretching, rehab, and also the other side of goalkeeping, which doesn't have to be physical, watching games, analysing things, learning from pros, reading, researching. There's a lot that you can do with your mind when you're resting your body too. So it doesn't have to feel like you're not doing anything, but time off, time away, doing something completely different to football can have huge benefits. And it's something I've struggled with, but it's very important to learn. So
something I noticed in almost every one of your vlogs, I noticed it also with Becoming Elite. What's his name?
Matt Sheldon.
You know, you both focus heavily on your diets, what you guys eat, your preparation, and I think those are huge. You know, I understand our younger goalkeepers, you know, that's not something you're going to push on them right now because they're still young. But our older goalkeepers, when did you find that diet was just as important as the mental side, the physical side of your player as a footballer?
Again, quite late. I think my career, I'm 26, and people are often surprised that I'm that old, but I don't think I started to really apply myself in the way that I should be doing until I was probably 20. And I think I wasted the 16 to 20 years being a bit, I'll train, I'll turn up for training, I'll do as well as I can, I'll go home and I'll chill. And I didn't do extra gym work. I didn't really understand the gym. I didn't know S&C. I was at a professional football club, but I was at a professional football club lower down in the league where we didn't have S&C coaches. We didn't have a nutritionist. We didn't have the people that could actually give me that information. And it wasn't until I went to Loughborough University that I was lucky enough to learn all these things and to see how valuable they can be. I'm a slightly shorter goalkeeper. And I remember when I was 16, 17, I thought that eating salads would help me be taller. And that was just something that I thought was the case, and no one would ever teach me any different. And it's strange because it sounds so silly now with the knowledge that I have, but as you realize the benefits of eating well, drinking well, sleep is massive. People don't recognize how important sleep is. If I said to your goalkeepers, I can give you a pill that's completely legal, completely free, will help you cure all your injuries, will help you perform at the maximum each game and each training session and recover as fast as possible, every single one of them would take it. And I'd say it's sleep. It's sleeping. It's sleeping 7 to 9 hours a night. It's getting a nap, a 40-minute nap in a day. It's not always possible for everyone, but if you can structure your day that sleep is able to be a big part, it's huge. And I think all these really simple things, we're in a world where we try and find the best vibrating foam rollers or muscle guns or protein shakes to try and get those 1%, when actually you can get a 20%, 30% improvement from a good diet, knowing the right foods and sleeping well and drinking well and having the right kind of lifestyle. So I think people need to often put that focus on the basics and controlling the basics. And yeah, diet is a big part of that. And you don't need to pay a nutritionist. You can do quite a lot of research yourself. And hopefully things like my content can help people with that. You can see what is the right thing. It doesn't have to be that you measure out every single meal to the ounce, but knowing the right type of foods, when you should eat, how you should eat, the fact that goalkeepers are slightly different to outfield players, for example, in the types of food that they might need. All these little details are things that can really help.
You know, you brought up your height, and so I'm 5'8", and so that's a big. So the other goalkeeper trainer, he's 6'3", so you get sort of this you get this sort of window of a tall goalkeeper and a short goalkeeper, the pluses and minuses, because tall goalkeepers, yes, they can get those corners. The problem is a tall goalkeeper has a harder time getting down lower a lot of times, trying to get down or meet that ball that's right at their feet. And a lot of our short goalkeepers, and they're still young, so they're growing, but they worry about, well, I won't be tall enough. And that is sort of pervasive in the sport about, well, the best goalkeeper is a tall goalkeeper. And so a lot of times I've directed some of our keepers to just watch you at your height, because you do reach places that a lot of keepers at your height may not necessarily reach it, but it's because of all of the training. Pickford's another one. He can leave the ground and fly. Now he is obviously a little bit taller, but still in the realm of keepers, he's still somewhat short. Have you ever found that being a shorter goalkeeper is a deterrent to you getting on a team?
Yes, when I was younger, it was a big problem for me. And it was something that I really was stressed about. Naturally, I think if you feel like there's something that's inhibiting you from reaching the next level and it's something that you can't control, that can be very difficult. But through kind of years and experience, again, that's something that I realized that if I can't control it. So in that fact, what use is it wasting my time and my energy and stressing and worrying about it when I can't control it? All that I can control is, again, eating as well as I can, sleeping as well as I can. But when I've grown, I've grown. So after that, what can I control? I can control the type of training that I do. I can control my performance in matches. I can control all the things that I learn and try and get better at every single day. So that when it comes to a goalkeeper being compared against myself and the coach picking someone to play, it's happened now in my team. The goalkeeper that's second choice is probably 6'3", but I've put myself in a position where hopefully my coaches look and go, okay, what do I want in a goalkeeper and who's the best in those elements? And hopefully my name comes up on every single one, because that's what I work for every single time. And yes, there's always going to be teams and coaches and scouts maybe that have looked at me and gone, oh, okay, he's not tall enough, but I can't control anything about it. So I try not to let it stress me or worry me anymore, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't have a lot of years where it did. So it's only natural to feel that way. I found it slightly different. I think when I was in England, it was more of a problem when people were looking at me. In Sweden and in Spain, I've had less people refer to it, but that might also be the fact that my performance level was much higher here. So it's probably not been as big of an issue. So it's hard, and I have a lot of sympathy for people that stress and worry about it. But as I say, I try and say, control what you can control and put all your effort and all your energy into getting the best that you can be in all those key elements that you can control about your game. And hopefully then you'll be the better goalkeeper and those opportunities will come.
Since you've left England, right, and you've gone to Sweden, have you seen the play style? Is it different, even in the training style?
It was more so when I went to Spain. There was a bigger difference between England and Spain. I find Sweden actually quite a nice hybrid between the two. And again, okay, I wasn't in a Premier League academy. I wasn't playing at the very top level in England. I was playing in a League 2 conference level club. So the game was very physical, very powerful, very aggressive, very intense. And then I moved to Spain, where the focus was much more technical, goalkeeping and outfield player wise. And then here in Sweden, it's been quite a nice marriage of the two. It's probably more physical than Spain, probably faster, more direct, but at the same time, there is a technical focus in terms of what the expectation is on the player. So it's been a nice combination of the two, but I've enjoyed seeing different countries and seeing different preferences from coaches and the way they improve their players and their goalkeepers. And I think it's helped me as a goalkeeper too, to learn those different styles of game and add it into my own and create my own kind of goalkeeping model. And I'm sure if I move to another country in the future, then I can, like you said before, you try and learn from whoever you speak to and wherever you're working. It's things that I've picked up from different places.
One question that another keeper had was, So just like, there's Ben Foster, who is obviously, he plays in Premiere, but he's also got his channel. You've got your channel. You've got, I think it's GK Galorium. I always can't pronounce his name right. Becoming Elite. All of you have these great channels that give us an insight, like this little picture into your lives as a professional, which normally used to be closed off. Like, you didn't get to see any of that stuff. You didn't get to see what you guys had to do professionally, how you dealt with your family life. I mean, that's huge. I mean, how much you have to give up. The one thing that I still think that I don't think it gets brushed over as much as it used to, but I feel is super important. What is your take on the mental side of being a goalkeeper? How do you deal with, you win a game, then you turn around and you lose a game, and you get scored on? How do you push past that? How do you come back and deal with it? I noticed that you will play a game and then you come back a couple of days later and then you actually do the highlights, which I think even that little bit speaks in of itself of what you may be doing on the outside that we don't see. So what's your take on that whole thing?
The mentality of a goalkeeper, I think, is over half of it. I'd say, I was going to say 70%, but I think that might be too high. Maybe 60%. But at every level of the game, not just at the top level, every level of the game, it's a really difficult position from a mental point of view. In terms of, I have this conversation with my girlfriend quite a lot, because she's obviously come to watch a lot of games. She sees it from what I'm like after a game and how hard it is for me when things go wrong, compared to if a striker misses 5 chances and then scores the winner and everyone thinks they're brilliant for one kick of the ball. And it's the life we sign up to. We can't be annoyed about that, because we know what it is going in. We know what our role is. So you'll never be perfect, but the fact that you're always trying to get better is the most important thing. Again, what I said before about having a very clear identification on what you can control and what you can't control. In terms of setting goals, that's important. People talk about clean sheets. People talk about wins. You can't control that as a goalkeeper. You could have the best game of your life and lose 5-0. But setting real process goals that you can control is very important. So for me, process goals, things that I'm training, things that I'm working on, things that I'm trying to introduce into my game, things, if you want to go a little bit more, product goals in terms of like save percentages, pass accuracy, things that you have some larger element of control over, is good to measure your progress. Clean sheets are great, don't get me wrong. Awards, titles, leagues, brilliant, but there's a lot that isn't from your side that depends on how well that goes. But yeah, from games, I'll normally, I find winning is more of a relief, and I find losing very difficult still at 26, where I've probably been very focused on my football for about 10 years, and I still find losing really difficult and really frustrating. And like you say, you're right, I take the next day to watch the highlights myself and really process it and go through it, and I use that time to come to terms with how I've played, with how the game's gone, let the frustration out of myself, and then, like you say in the vlog, I might not even go back and talk about it until 2 days later, 3 days later, depending on how it's gone. And that's the negative side of it. Same with when you make mistakes, you're frustrated, you're disappointed. But I think as long as you always have that desire to learn from what's happened, take value from it, implement change into your training or regimes that can help you to avoid mistakes that you've made, but then let it go and move on. That's the next one. Because the good thing with football is you've always got next weekend. It's not like the Olympics where you've got 10 seconds for a 100-meter final once every 4 years. So,
what did you find was your most stressful moment in goal, and how did you deal with it?
Most stressful. I don't know. When I'm actually playing, I often feel very much in the zone, so things don't impact me too much stress-wise. I've had games where I've made mistakes and my team's been losing, and then the team is pushing to equalise or whatever to account for your error, and you're like the manager, you're just standing there watching and you're praying that they can do it. So that has some element of stress. But I've always enjoyed playing. That's something my mum's always said to me. She's always said, if you don't enjoy it, then you know that something's wrong. When I was a kid, I was playing for Crewe Alexandra, which was a big academy, and I was 10 years old, and we used to play against Man United, Man City, Liverpool, Everton every weekend, and I didn't enjoy it. And my mum said, if you're not enjoying going and playing against Man United, maybe you probably shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
And so I left and went to a smaller academy, but enjoyed and found my love of football again. And I think if I hadn't left, I probably wouldn't be playing football now, because I wasn't enjoying it. So yeah, there's always stress in there, but as long as you still have the love of playing, the love of making saves, the love of competition, that can overcome whatever stress happens within a game.
So, YouTube is huge, right? And all of the kids we train, that's their world. Right. My kids, they've grown up with that. And so one of the questions was, how do you deal with time management with YouTube and also being a professional footballer? Because obviously your videos don't just pop into reality. There takes time with all of the, you take the videos, and even when you do Frankie Cam and all that other stuff, you still have to sew all that back together and make it look right, sound right. So how do you deal with that, and how do you get the time to even do it?
I've always told myself and ensured that my focus is on football first, and that the YouTube is something that I enjoy doing, which is on the side. I will never refer to myself as a YouTuber. I'll never see it as my primary job, because I want to be a goalkeeper and I want to be the best goalkeeper I can be. If YouTube ever affects me doing that, it'll stop, because goalkeeping is my number one focus and what I want to get better at. If I can manage it on the side without it affecting, then great. And if it helps people, even better. I think I learned time management and combining things quite early on. So I've always studied and played. Something in America, obviously very similar, but in the UK it's quite rare. Normally you leave school at 16 and it's just football from that point on. But from 16 to 23, I was in higher education as well as playing football. So it's something that I've always learned to manage in terms of my time. And I think it's actually helped me to have something else, which isn't football, that I can keep my mind changing between the two and combining. But in terms of the actual YouTube itself, I'm very lucky that I work with Johnny, who's been with me on the channel for a long time. My mate from uni, and he helps a lot with kind of editing process, the technical elements behind the video. But it does take a lot of time, filming, planning videos, editing, publishing. It does take time, but as long as you're kind of efficient with the process and that you know your priorities, like I said before, then it's something that hopefully can bring people a lot of value, and it's something that I enjoy doing too. But yeah, it's interesting because obviously not many people do it, and it can seem a bit weird to some people, but hopefully when people watch the videos, they understand what it is and what we're trying to do with it. It's not anything narcissistic or trying to take advantage of people. It's just trying to document a journey and share as much value and help as many people as possible. So
last couple of questions, and I'll let you know, because I know it's late, or it's getting late there for you guys. I appreciate it again that you hooked up on Saturday.
No.
So a couple of things that as a trainer I like to see. One, you have great feet, which I find is hit or miss with goalkeepers, even at the top of this league. Like, they're super fast, they're great with their throws, they're great with their distribution, but the minute you put the ball at their feet, it's hit or miss. You can tell, you can just tell how they run. One of the things I like is that you're quick with your feet. Your 1v1s are really, really good. I like how you do split saves, you do case saves, the close saves. I've noticed that when you go to do your split saves, you do a pretty full split save. That's something we do teach our goalkeepers. What is your technique for getting that stretch? How do you work on that so you don't pull your hams and everything else?
The stretching itself, to be honest, I have there's a video on my channel which is goalkeeper stretching routine or something, but I stretch every single day for about 15-20 minutes before every session. I was brought up that stretching help prevent injuries. It's medical research is not so much. But what I have found with stretching and flexibility is it's impacted my game massively. 1v1s is probably one of the strongest part of my games because of it, because I have full control of my body in such a wide range of movements that I feel like I can adapt within situations, and I can use different parts of my body to make saves, whereas other people are very linear very rigid in their movements. If you play outside that plane of line, they're going to struggle. Whereas I feel like a lot of stretching has helped me to be very adaptive with that. So I have a full body stretching routine I'll do before every gym session, before every training session, just to maintain that mobility and that confidence in the fact that I can use it. Funnily enough, when I was younger, my brother and my sister both did gymnastics and my dad did kickboxing. So the three of them were very, very mobile and flexible, but I couldn't touch my toes. So the three of them used to take the mick out of me relentlessly for the fact that I was so inflexible and immobile. So it was from that point on that, probably out of spite, I decided to start stretching, and it's become a big part of my game. So yeah, flexibility and obviously strength and conditioning in terms of making sure that when you get a bit older, you're strong enough in those positions too to not be injured. That's something that's very important too.
All right, last question, then I'll let you get going. Your big save with your feet. So I think it was about 3 games ago, you dove to the left and they went down the middle and you saved the ball with your foot. That reaction save. We have actually played that one over and over again a couple times just to see that. Was that literally you just went up in the air and it just happened?
Yeah, well, again, I think mobility in terms of if you freeze it at the point of contact with my foot, it's almost like a side volley in terms of where the leg is and where I'm leaning and that kind of mobility. So once it's happened so quick, it's all reaction. It's not something you can predict or train. But I remember the feeling of when he headed it and I knew I was going the other way, but I still felt very confident because I knew where the ball was and I instinctively knew the range of mobility for my foot. So I knew I was going to get close. I didn't know that it was going to go around the post and be a kind of perfect diversion out for a corner, but I knew that I was going to get in and around there. And that knowledge of your body is a lot to do with, stretching and mobility work, strength and conditioning, but the all-round athlete area of goalkeeping. So the plyometric stuff, not just the technical goalkeeping work, but knowing your body as an athlete, what you can do, what your strengths are, how to maximize those strengths. As soon as he had that header, I knew what my body was capable of, and I was very confident in the moment to do something. And you can't predict it, but I was glad that it stayed out.
Alrighty, man. Tape. That was the last question. Do you tape your fingers?
Recently, I've started to do.
We all jam and have the broken fingers and stuff.
Recently, I've started to do it more because I made a video about taping my fingers and how to do it. And in the video, I said I don't tape my fingers, which was true. And then ever since that video, I think it hit my fingers about 4 times in like 4 weeks. I was getting really annoyed. And so I've started to do it a little bit more. I don't tape them for games. I think it's a very personal preference thing, but as long as you have the confidence in your hands, that's the most important thing. So I've always found to try and not rely on tape. I've always tried to minimize my use of it, but especially if I'm struggling with an existing injury or trying to prevent something, then I will do. But I know goalkeepers that swear by it and do it for every training session and every single game, wrists and fingers. So I think it's what makes you feel most confident and comfortable.
Gotcha. Alrighty, man. Well, I appreciate you chatting with me. It's awesome. It's really cool.
No, not anytime. And thank you for supporting us as a patron too. It really makes a difference, because I don't think you guys realize, obviously, it helps us to do what we do in terms of the YouTube channel and everything. So no, it's the least I can do to say thank you for that.
Well, I think with what you do and a couple of the other the other players out there who actually show us just that little glimpse into what you guys are doing, it's huge. Because again, like I've said before, when I was growing up, you didn't see any of this. You had no idea what was going on. At least this gives some perspective, I would say, on the expectations of what it takes to become a professional footballer. And it's not just I'm going to go through this academy and I'm going to make the reserves and then I'm going to make first team. It's not that simple, And so I think with what you guys show, it gives everybody just a second of reality of what it is for you guys to keep doing this on a daily basis. So, and it's not just that you're just that good. It's because you're that good because you train to be that good. And that's huge.
No, I'm really glad that comes through, because that's something that we've always wanted to do with it. So that's brilliant to hear. Thank you, Adam.
Absolutely. Well, you have a good evening, and we'll look forward to seeing your video on Sunday.
Yeah, well, take care. Have a good day. And if there's ever anything I can do at all, just send me a message, and I'll always try my best to help. But say hi to all the kids from me as well.
Will do. Thank you.